This is Steve Edison, founder and president of Abolition News Network. We have an interview coming up next season, which is so important for you to watch. I'm telling you in advance that you must see Solomon Northup and hear about his book, 12 Years as a Slave, where he experienced actual slavery in Louisiana from 1841 to 1853. Here in our studio today, we have two of the most famous 19th century abolitionists and writers to tell you about Solomon Northup. Harriet Beecher Stowe and Frederick Douglass. You know each other?
Yeah. Oh yes, I wrote to Frederick when I was writing my book back in 1851. I told him I needed to hear from a laborer in the cotton fields. And so we wrote back and forth, and it was the beginning of a very long friendship.
But I omitted telling her that I really wasn't an expert in cotton picking. But more often I was hired out as a laborer in the Maryland shipyards. But I really was a friend of hers who always supported her and was guessing who would be the model for her main character in Uncle Tom's Cabin. Her choice of Josiah Henson was a very good choice.
But after all, isn't there but one true anti-slavery church and all else infidels?
Right. We anti-slavery people must pull together.
Of course. Now you two are both well known as abolitionists and writers, and so I'd like you to tell our viewing audience why they should see this interview with Solomon Northup and read his book, Why He Was Kidnapped, and the life that he led. So let's begin with you, Mrs. Stowe. He wrote a dedication in his book, 12 Years as a Slave.
This is a quote from my book, A Key to Uncle Tom's Cabin.
Okay. And then show them the, this is the first edition, 1853. Okay, go ahead.
It is a singular coincidence that Solomon Northup was carried to a plantation in the Red River country, the same region where the scene of Uncle Tom's captivity was laid, and his account of this plantation and the mode of life there and some incidents which he describes form a striking parallel to that history. Key to Uncle Tom's Cabin. I interviewed him when his book was coming out, and we found a lot of striking similarities between the two. My fictional character Tom in Uncle Tom's Cabin was from the same region that he was from, in the Red Valley in Louisiana. As well, his masters, John Tobias and Edwin Epps, they were similar, if not worse, than my Simon Legree character. So I can understand his appreciation for my book as I do his.
Then you can believe the absolute truth of the practices of slavery that he described?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, Solomon was there with a unique set of qualifications for observation and analysis. He entered slavery educated, curious and fully aware of his former freedom and dignity that was taken away from him in 1841. All the other commentators on the Old South were people that visited and wrote about it. No one else endured its hardships like he did. He shared the experiences of slaves both as an outside observer and also as a fellow Negro chattel. There's no other commentator on American slavery that has that unique set of qualifications. 12 Years a Slave is the most complete book ever written on American slavery.
Wow.
I actually wrote in my book, A Key to Uncle Tom's Cabin, a whole chapter called Kidnapping, chapter 8, where I describe exactly how quickly he went from free to slave.
Why don't you read just a little bit of that for our audience?
Oh, sure.
There's a whole book explaining Uncle Tom's Cabin.
And this wasn't an isolated incident. And the treatment happened to many people. I write here, but it is probably only one case in 100 that can get into court. Of the multitudes who are drawn down in the ever-widening maelstrom, only now and then one ever comes back to tell the tale. Had not Northup been able to write, as few of the free blacks in the slave states are, his doom might have been sealed for life.
Well, let's wait. Let's save that for the next video. It's called Martyrs on the Road to the Abolition of Slavery. We have a new anchor man or anchor woman. Her name is Pamela Lynn Coldhauser. Frederick, what is your opinion of Solomon Northup in his book?
Well, Steve, let me say this. Wait. I already said it. Last summer in the August edition of The Liberator, I wrote it. May I read it? I have it here. And these are my words. And we'll have them in 1 second. It reads, think of it. For 30 years a man, with all a man's hopes, fears, and aspirations, with a wife and children to call him by the endearing names of husband and father, with a home, humble it may be, but still a home. Then, for 12 years, a theme, a shadow, personnel, classed with mules and horses. Oh, it is so terrible, horrible. It chills the blood to think that such are. I wrote this on August 26, 1853.
That was this last summer. So can you vouch for everything he said in his book as
Well,
true?
it's nothing short of astonishing that in spite of his ordeal in the South, he still had the strength to recount his misfortunes. Well, he did it with fairness and justice, a feat of no small magnitude, nor capable by many men. Let me give you an example. In his narrative, he wrote an entire chapter on the processing of sugarcane, from the beginning to the end, from plowing and planting to cutting the stalks into white table sugar. Oh, by the way, he also wrote a chapter on the salting and smoking of hogs, which were cut up on New Year's Day.
Okay, that's enough. Let's save some of this for the upcoming interview. So both you agree that this is a book that everyone should read, and he knows what he's talking about?
Indeed. We do agree.
Okay, well then there you have it. The truthful description of slave life without any exaggeration from a man who went through it from Washington, D.C. to the depths of Louisiana. As you heard from Harriet Beecher Stowe and Frederick Douglass, no one else has those credentials. This is Steve Edison for Abolition News Network.